So you want to interview a guest for your podcast. How do you remain socially distant and responsible and still get good audio? Hi, this is Mark from Podiant, and it is my sworn duty to bring you actionable advice that you can apply to your podcast today. Now, I'm going to run through the options that you have for recording guests remotely. As I record this, it's 2020. Let's acknowledge it. Now and for the foreseeable future, podcast guests are probably going to be remote. That doesn't have to be a bad thing. It is a great way to book really interesting guests because it means that they don't have any travel. They can just roll out of bed and be fascinating on mic straight away. Now, Skype is older than everybody's dog, but it is still probably the best option that we have as podcasters. Yes, the user interface keeps changing. Yes, you're always fiddling with different version numbers, but the core VoIP system actually is pretty solid and it's a pretty good way of working. Now, the best way to get good sound out of Skype is to use an end-to-end recording technique where you record your end of the call and your guest or your co-host records their end of the call as well, and then you sync them up. Now, there's a reason that we do this because you can always tell when it's a Skype call or any kind of VoIP call. You hear those compression artifacts. The voice sounds quite squashed. You've got a lot less wiggle room when you come to doing EQ and filtering because so much processing has already been done to the voice because of the software that you're using. So when you get your guest or your co-host to record their end, you've got a lot more flexibility. You can make the process quite easy for your guests. Have a document or a page on your website that walks them through exactly what they need for Windows or Mac or whatever, so it's nice and simple for them. And you'll be surprised how many people will actually do it. Have a pre-flight checklist. For example, when I'm working with a guest, I always ask them, how do I pronounce your name? And then I'll let them know, here's what we do with recording, here's where to drop your files once we're finished. Insist that your guest and your co-host wear headphones. I am pretty hardline about this. Some people don't do headphones, apparently. That is not a thing. If they don't respect your show enough to wear headphones when they're recording, are they really worth the hassle? There are so many reasons why you need to get your guest to wear headphones, and we've covered them when we've talked about why you should wear headphones as well. Now, once you have your audio recorded, you can use your audio editing software to sync up the audio tracks. Now, while you're recording, you can think about doing something like a 3, 2, 1 sync. Everybody claps at the same time. And what that means then is when you come to sync up your audio in your software, you'll be able to actually visibly see the peak where everybody's clapped at the same time. Now we have to get onto something called audio drift, which is the downside of using this double-ender recording technique where you record your side of the call, they record theirs. It's because different computers' clocks run at different speeds. It sounds strange, but it's true. And when that happens, the recordings become very, very slightly out of sync. The longer the recording, the longer the conversation you have with your guest, the more audio drift you will encounter. But it does differ depending on the guest, their computer. There's all sorts of different things, so it's not always going to be the same amount of audio drift each time. So the ways you can counter this is once you've got all your tracks lined up, you can either adjust as you go and just look for those bits of overlap or those gaps and just tweak the tracks, just move them very slightly, each clip. Or you can start from the beginning and just pick a few points within the episode and just adjust and make sure that everything's still in sync. Now, there are apps and services that will help mitigate this and still give you a double-ender experience where you've got different tracks for each speaker. We've talked about Zoom before. It's really good for getting everybody in the same virtual room, but it's not a good option for recording. Yes, you can get everybody's voices on separate tracks, but the audio is really compressed and it sounds very, very, very bad. Zencaster is very popular. It works in a web browser like Zoom, but again, the audio quality is not very good, which is a real shame. You really do hear the compression. Now, there's a fairly new app. It's a bit more expensive, but it's called Squadcast, and it's really worth you taking a look. It sounds infinitely better. It does much more sound like they're in the room. They haven't got to download anything. It also includes video, so you can actually look your guests and your co-host in the eye. And having done that, it is quite fun. It doesn't record that video, but it just helps you sync up visually. Whether you're using Zencaster or Squadcast, ask them to stay on the line after they've recorded because you've got to wait for the audio file to finish uploading. You don't want them to close their browser straight away because the audio that they've recorded at their end, which happens automatically, might not have finished being pushed up to the server. Also, make sure you have a backup plan. Try and record everything locally as well. You can do this using an app like Audio Hijack on a Mac. You can also record your entire PC output in Windows. This is really good, not only to have in case of a dire emergency, but also once you come to sync up your audio tracks, if that's something you need to do, then you can have this as a visual guide because it's a complete record of the entire call. Now, that is a whistle-stop tour of some of the options. It's basically Skype, even in 2020, even in the times where we're in now, Skype is still your best option. Now, we've got loads more tools, resources, guides, videos over at podiant.co/learn to help you get up to speed with podcasting. And of course, with that, you can check out our free 14-day trial of the Podiant podcast hosting service. I've been Mark Stedman, and I will continue to be. You can also find me and Podiant on Twitter at PodiantHQ. Come and say hello if you've got any thoughts or comments or further questions. Love to hear from you. You can also find us on YouTube here by searching for Podiant, and click that subscribe button and you'll get loads more videos like this, lots more practical advice that you can apply to your podcast today, delivered in my signature breathless style. So thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take care.